You want to survive spring gardening without feeling like you wrestled a bear the next day? That's exactly what I'm going to show you. So you're going to learn how to pick up heavy bags of mulch, rake, shovel, and be able to transfer things in the garden without flaring up the back or neck. So, hi, I'm Dr. Jess. I'm a physical therapist, and I enjoy helping people get the most out of their bodies in the simplest way possible and without pain. So first things first, when it comes to lifting, this is what we have to do with mulch. There's going to be the basic rules that you can apply to any kind of lifting that you do. So a lot of us know no bending, twisting, and lifting, but what does that really look like? So when I pick something up, what I want to do is I really want to keep whatever that's heavy, I want to keep it close to my center of mass, so close to my belly button. So if I were to pick up this bag of mulch and my feet are this far away and then I go to lift, it's going to be really, really hard on my low back. But if I walk close to that bag of mulch, now I've got the center of the weight for the mulch a lot closer to my center, and so it's going to be a lot easier for me to lift using my legs and not having to forward bend. The other thing I want to think about is no twisting, because if I have weight in my hands and I twist, that's going to put my disc in a really precarious position. So whenever I have weight in my hands, I just move my feet, and that way I'm never separating my shoulders from my hips, which is ultimately going to put stress onto my back. And finally, you want to think about how do you lower. It's the same exact way as we lift, is that you're going to make sure that you're going to use your legs to drive the weight up, get your feet underneath you, and then when you lower, you do the exact same method, is that you're going to sit the hips back and lower with the legs. That way you're not taking the weight with straight legs and lowering down, which again is going to put stress on the back. If you do that repetitively, you're just way more likely to have pain when you really don't need to, and you can enjoy getting your yard looking good in the spring. One of the other things that we do when we're out for a long time is working smarter, not harder. So using something like a wagon to be able to move what you need that's heavy from point A to point B can be a great way to be able to get more strain off of your body. So when it comes to raking, what you want to think about is, again, not putting stress on the low back or on the neck. What a lot of people I see do is they'll kind of reach out like this and then pull, and that's going to be a lot of repetitive bending, and it can really start to flare up the muscles, obviously low back and then into the back of the hips. So instead what we want to do is we want to use our arm muscles to help, and it's going to be a weight shift from one foot to the other. So I take the rake and I pull everything in. Now you see I'm not doing that awkward bend, and so if I want to get this, I just take a step, and then that way I can get a whole lot of raking done, and I'm never really doing a lot of that kind of reach. The same thing goes when you're vacuuming inside. It's the same concept. I get a lot of questions in the clinic that relate to how can I clean or do yard work without flaring myself up. The other thing you want to think about, again, is working smarter and not harder. So if I want to pick these up, I can easily use something like these grabbers, and I'm going to do the same concept as when I lift. I'm going to sit like I'm sitting back into a chair, and then I'm going to pick these up and then lower them down. And I'm always thinking about not using my back to do a bunch of the work, but I'm going to use my legs to lower me and then raise me back up. Okay, so when it comes to shoveling, that's going to look a little bit different than raking. So whenever we're doing something that requires force, again, we never want to rotate as we're doing the activity, because again, that's going to put the stress onto the discs and the lumbar spine that we don't want. So if you can, use muscles that are bigger muscles. So with shoveling, I'm always going to use my leg muscles. I'm just going to really try and transfer the weight to whatever it is I'm trying to do. And then as I lift, I'm going to do the same concept of sitting my legs down instead of trying to lift just with my arms, which again can get the low back all sorts of unhappy. So I'm going to shift this back, and then that way I can free up whatever it is I'm trying to, dig out. And I'm not going to rotate as I let this go. If I need to move this, I just move my feet and then I can let it go. So just think, when in doubt, sit the hips back or sit the hips back so that your legs do the work. Use your arms tucked close to you. Keep weight close to your body. And then if you need to move something from point A to point B, move your feet to do it instead of just moving the upper body. Those rules of thumb will keep you much happier with any kind of loaded activity that you're doing, because you'll be able to do it without hurting. All right, so last but not least, let's talk about weeding. So anytime that we have to be low to the ground for an extended period like that, one of the things that it can be hard on is like, it can be hard on the knees if you're doing what I'm doing, or if you're doing one of these things, that can be really hard on the low back. So I like using something that's a little bit padded, it doesn't have to be fancy. And then if you put that under 2 knees, then from here you can reach and get to a lot of different weeds. The other thing that people can do is sit down on this, or if you have a little stool, you can sit on that as well. And if you don't want to have to stress on the joints in your fingers by having to kind of really dig at the weeds, using some sort of a tool is nice and ergonomic for the hands. We're not at that end range position in the joints of the fingers. And if I come through here, I can use that to really free up any of the weeds that are in my path, and then they'll usually come out nice and easy and by the roots, which is perfect. So make sure take all the stress off your body that you can, whether it's your back, your knees, your neck, your fingers, with using techniques that are good ergonomic techniques and simple tools that don't cost a lot, and they'll make a huge impact on how you feel, especially with long days of enjoying the springtime weather. All right, so now you know that when you're out in the yard, you really want to make sure that you're always bending your knees, sitting your hips back like you're sitting into a chair to lower yourself down and bring yourself back up, whether that's bending to lift a heavy bag of mulch, whether that's bending to be able to use your shovel, or if it's bending to lift up leaves that you've raked. Bend your knees, sit the hips back. It loads the quads and not your low back. The other thing is never twist when you're loaded. So if you have weight in your hands or you're using a shovel, don't twist your body, move your feet instead. And then also remember, if you're gonna reach really far and then load with a pull, it's the same concept. Move your feet closer, and then you'll be able to drive with the feet and not the low back. And finally, use tools when appropriate. So use a wagon to help move heavy stuff. Use tools to help with weeding. Use padding to help with, unloading the knees or sitting more comfortably. And then at the end of the day, especially if it's been hours, it will all add up, so you'll feel that much better. So make sure to leave a like and the comment on how much you really enjoy being outside in the spring and what's your favorite springtime plant to plant. And then catch us next week with more tips on how to stay active and actually enjoy it.